Alright, so we're almost done with this year's anime feature, and this one right here is Pupa, and it is considered as a psychological horror. Now, before we start talking about this one, I'm pretty sure we all know the reason why people like to review this one. And that's because this one is known for being one of the absolute worst animes ever made. And the main reason why I added it in here is because I was really curious to see how bad this one really was, or to see if, people were just overreacting over it, because, that happens sometimes. And to be honest, from what I looked into this one before watching it, it actually did sound somewhat interesting. So I figured, why not? I mean, what's the worst that could possibly happen here? So anyways, now let's start talking about the story. So it starts out with our main character Yutsutsu, and he has a younger sister named Yumi, and they both care for each other very deeply. And when I mean deeply, I mean very, very deeply. So these two characters don't have any parents anymore because they ran away from home due to the fact that their father was extremely abusive towards them. So eventually, after they see some butterflies, it turns out that they are both infected by a virus called Pupa. And sadly, this virus does not make you poop your pants infinitely, because, that would have been a much better idea. So the sister got the virus really bad, where basically she turns into a monster that will feed on everything, so basically she kinda turns into a cannibal. And Yutsutsu ends up having some regenerating cells. And all of this was being told by some chick named Maria, who happens to wear all black and even has a cat. So basically she's a researcher. Now this is where things get really, really fucked up. So after Yutsutsu ends up seeing his sister eat a bunch of people, he still wants to care for her, cause, that's just how he feels about her. And you guessed it, he ends up eating him whole. But he doesn't die from this, because like I said, he ends up having the regenerating cells. So Maria has a plan that he wants to give Yutsutsu a drug, so then his sister can end up feeding on him infinitely, and honestly, explaining this shit just fucking hurts my brain. So alright, let me just get it out of the way first, is that this show just makes as much sense of a soup sandwich. Because there's really nothing you need to know about the characters, they're very one-dimensional and very forgettable, and there's really no reason to anything whatsoever. It's essentially a loose collection of scenes just thrown together at last minute. But of course, it just has to have something weird about it, so they decided to throw in some weird incest shit. And the entire idea of the plot is kind of like that one scene from Elfen Lied, the part where he was singing about making out with his cousin. Now, if you've seen my review on that this year, then I said something about like how that scene really didn't go anywhere and it was just kind of dumb. Well, thankfully in that show, it was only like one scene and that was it, where in here, it's basically the entire goddamn thing. Alright, let's get moving on here and start talking about the animation, and damn is it ever fucking piss poor. So first off, the backgrounds all look like they're not even finished whatsoever. They all have a lot of white glance all over everything and some very sloppy lines and colors, and it just doesn't work well together. Honestly, I think that children's show Caillou, if anyone remembers that shit, looked better than this. And all the character and monster designs are pretty bland, which is very unfortunate because you could have at least made a decent looking monster. Although I will give them credit that I do find that Marie's character does look pretty cool, but other than that, everyone else just looks very generic and very dull. And as for the show's music, it's very forgettable. I can't really say a whole lot about it. I mean, it wasn't completely awful, but it also wasn't really good. It was just kind of meh. But if there was one thing about the music that I do remember, and it was also pretty awful, was the opening theme song. To me, it kind of sounds like a mangled mess of noise. And that singing kind of sounds like a low-pitch auto-tune. It's just fucking bad. So if they can't even get an opening right, then that's kind of worrisome. And as for the show's voice acting, this one never got an English release, so it's only in Japanese, so you know what I'm going to say here, I can't judge the quality because I can't speak Japanese, although I am kind of curious to know if it actually is good voice acting or shitty voice acting, so if anyone actually knows anything about Japanese languages and how things are pronounced and such, then just let me know. So I can't say much here. So now, when it comes to the overall score, I'm gonna give this one a 1 out of 10. Yup, this is one of the awful ones. Now, I really was thinking about giving it a 2 out of 10, mainly because there were some scenes in this show that were just really fucking laughably bad, but at the same time, it's just shit-fuck garbage at the end of the day. because there's really not a lot of things to like here. Like, all the characters kinda suck, they don't have like anything to them, and the overall story just really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, there was no real main point to the story. All it basically was just letting his sister eat him alive while he gets like turned on by it or something. I don't even know, man, it's just too fucked up for my taste. And it also kind of seems like that this show is trying to be even more than that, but it really just comes off as pretentious. And you know, whenever something comes off as pretentious, and you know it's just gonna be downright stupid. So with that being said, it seems like a lot of the other people that have been talking shit about this one were right. This anime is absolute fucking trash. And when it comes to the animes that I reviewed for this year, it's easily the worst. I didn't think I'd actually watch something that was worse than Agent Aika, good god. Though when it comes to all the anime reviews that I've ever reviewed thus far, then this one is probably a tie with the other one that I gave a 1 out of 10, being Photokano. But it's hard to say which one is worse than the other because they're both terrible for different reasons. Like, Photokano was bad because it was boring and just completely idiotic. But this one just sucks shit because it's just a bunch of sloppy trash. But with all comparisons aside, I think I'd rather do my taxes. And obviously, when it comes to recommending this one, I really can't unless you're just curious to see how fucked up the show is, but other than that, it truly is an art monument of AIDS.